Smart Container Garden Design Ideas. Top 12 Easy Container Gardening Ideas for Beginner. Hello, my fellow plant lovers. Welcome back to Earthly Delights, the channel where we celebrate the joy, peace, and quiet magic that gardening brings into our lives, no matter how small the space. If you're someone who dreams of a lush green corner in your apartment, if your balcony is begging for life, or your windowsill longs to be more than just a ledge, you're in the right place. Maybe you're a beginner, still unsure which plant won't give up on you, or maybe you're a seasoned grower who knows that even a single pot can spark daily joy. Whether you garden for beauty, for food, or for peace of mind, this video is crafted just for you. Today, I'm going to walk you through 12 creative, practical, and soul-nourishing container garden ideas that are perfect for limited spaces, from indoor jungles to edible balconies. So if your heart beats faster at the sight of thriving leaves or the scent of fresh basil, make sure to subscribe to Earthly Delights, because we're about to turn your everyday space into something extraordinary. 1. Indoor Jungle Sanctuary. Picture this. You step into your living room after a long day. And instead of a cold, empty space, you're greeted by a vibrant, living oasis. This is the magic of creating your own indoor jungle sanctuary, a lush escape that doesn't require a backyard. Just a bit of vision and care. For those of you living in apartments or houses without gardens, this idea speaks directly to your heart. You love greenery, you want your home to feel alive, but space and sunlight are limited, and the thought of high-maintenance plants might feel overwhelming. That's where this idea comes in. It's both low commitment and high reward. Start by choosing a dedicated corner in your home with soft, indirect light. This could be near a north-facing window, or even under a skylight. Then, bring in a variety of houseplants that thrive in those conditions. Think Monstera deliciosa with its iconic split leaves, the lush, wavy textures of calathea, or the hardy resilience of a philodendron. Don't worry about perfection. Think of it as building a forest, wild, layered, and soothing to the soul. Use plant stands, stools, or hanging macrame planters to play with height. The goal is to create depth, like stepping into a green cocoon. Add a large leafed floor plant in one corner, trailing vines on a shelf, and smaller pots clustered on a coffee table or windowsill. This is your jungle, your mood booster, your mini rainforest. The best part? Studies show indoor greenery reduces stress, boosts creativity, and even improves air quality. But more than that, it changes the feeling of a room. It turns it into a sanctuary. And if you've ever said, "I wish I could escape to nature," now you can. You don't need to leave your home. You just need a few pots, some love, and a little earthly delight. Shall we move on to your next green inspiration? Let me know, and we'll dive into the balcony herb bar next. 2. Balcony herb bar. Now let's take a step outside, not into a sprawling garden, but onto that modest little balcony you may have overlooked. Because even the smallest outdoor space holds the potential to become something truly special. Welcome to the balcony herb bar, your own fragrant, edible paradise just a few feet away from your kitchen. This idea is perfect for those of you who love to cook, who find joy in tossing fresh basil over pasta or mint into a glass of iced tea. Or maybe you're someone who simply enjoys the aroma of herbs carried on a soft breeze. No matter your reason, this setup is both beautiful and incredibly useful. Start by imagining your balcony not as an afterthought, but as an extension of your kitchen, a living pantry, if you will. Choose easy-to-grow herbs like basil, rosemary, thyme, oregano, parsley, and mint. These are not only culinary champions, but also forgiving companions for new gardeners. You don't need fancy planters, long railing boxes, vertical shelves, or even repurposed wooden crates can work beautifully. Line them up where they'll catch the morning sun and watch as green leaves begin to fill the space with life. For a more dynamic effect, consider mixing in a few flowering herbs like chives or lavender to invite pollinators and bring pops of color. What makes the herb bar so irresistible is that it's interactive. It's not just for show. You'll find yourself stepping out in your slippers to pinch a sprig of thyme, or brushing your fingers across the mint just to inhale its cooling scent. It becomes a ritual, one that connects you to nature, to your food, and to your senses. So whether you're living in the heart of the city or a quiet town apartment, your balcony can become a green retreat, alive with flavor, fragrance, and the quiet satisfaction of growing something yourself. Shall we continue? If you're ready for something a little more rustic and imaginative, up next is the boho repurposed corner, and it's all about personality and charm. 3. Boho repurposed corner. Let's step into a space where creativity blooms as freely as the plants themselves. Welcome to the boho repurposed corner. This idea is for the free-spirited gardener at heart, the one who sees beauty not just in blossoms, but in the stories of forgotten objects. If you've ever held onto an old teacup or wondered what to do with that rusty watering can, this is your moment. In the world of gardening, not everything has to come from the store. In fact, some of the most soulful corners are born from items that once seemed destined for the trash. This is where you get to break the rules. A chipped ceramic bowl? It becomes a cradle for succulents. An unused drawer? Now it's a raised planter full of cheerful pansies. A vintage suitcase? Why not turn it into a tiny, blooming meadow? This container garden idea isn't about perfection. It's about personality. Every container tells a story, maybe of your travels, your family, or your favorite flea market finds. And in a world that moves so fast, creating a corner that feels nostalgic, personal, and handmade, that's a rare kind of peace. Choose plants that match the charm of your upcycled containers. Soft trailing vines like sweet potato or ivy pair beautifully with rustic buckets. Lavender or geraniums add that old-world cottage feel. And don't forget texture. Combine moss, river pebbles, and small wood chips for an earthy foundation. Beyond the look, this idea also speaks to a deeper value: sustainability. You're giving objects a second life. You're gardening with purpose. And best of all, you're making a space that feels truly yours, quirky, soulful, and full of life. So the next time you pass by something worn or weathered, don't toss it. Imagine it as a planter waiting to bloom. And with a little soil and a lot of love, your boho repurposed corner will soon become the most talked about spot in your home. Up next, we're going vertical, because even your walls can grow green. Get ready for the charm and beauty of the vertical bloom wall. 4. Vertical bloom wall. Now, what if I told you that your garden doesn't need to take up any floor space at all? That even a bare wall could become a blooming, living masterpiece? Welcome to the vertical bloom wall, where every inch of height becomes a canvas for life. This idea is perfect for those of you working with extremely tight spaces. Maybe your balcony is too narrow for floor pots. Or your patio wall looks a little too plain. Or perhaps you just want to create a visual moment, something that catches the eye and lifts the spirit. That's the beauty of vertical gardening. It transforms limitations into creativity. All you need is a structure to support your imagination. This could be as simple as a wooden pallet leaned against a wall, a metal mesh grid, or a hanging pocket system. From there, the possibilities bloom. Think of it like painting with plants. Use vibrant flowers like petunias, nasturtiums, or trailing lobelia to spill over the edges. Pair them with upright greenery like coleus or compact ferns for contrast. If you love a fragrant garden, add pockets of lavender or scented geraniums. Their aroma will rise with the wind, turning your wall into an aromatic escape. And here's the secret. It's not just about the plants, it's about the layers. Play with color, mix leaf shapes, alternate heights, create rhythm. Let your wall sing a silent song of beauty and growth. This setup also helps soften urban settings. A concrete balcony wall suddenly feels like the edge of a forest. A blank side of a house now breathes with movement and color. You can even use it to divide spaces, turning a simple divider into a lush green curtain. For those of you craving a dramatic change with minimal space, the vertical bloom wall may just be your dream garden, flipped on its side. And if you're thinking, okay, but what about something super easy and almost maintenance-free? Then stay tuned. Our next stop is the Desert Zen Tray, a garden that thrives on stillness and simplicity. 5. Desert Zen Tray. Sometimes, less really is more, especially when life feels hectic and your space, or your energy, is limited. That's when the Desert Zen Tray becomes your calm in the chaos. A low-maintenance, deeply grounding container garden inspired by the silence and simplicity of desert landscapes. This idea is for those of you who crave beauty but don't want the constant upkeep. Maybe you're someone with a busy schedule, or you're just beginning your plant journey and want to start with something easy. The Desert Zen tray is as close to effortless as gardening gets, and yet, it's endlessly captivating. Start with a shallow, wide container. This could be a ceramic dish, a reclaimed wooden tray, or even a low terracotta bowl. Fill it with sandy, well-draining soil, and then begin your quiet arrangement. Succulents and cacti are your stars here. Echeveria with its perfect rosettes. Spiky haworthia, or a tiny barrel cactus to anchor the scene. But don't stop with the plants. Add a layer of decorative gravel, smooth black pebbles, or even a winding trail of white sand. Maybe place a tiny figurine, a Buddha, a stone stack, or a mini rake, to turn your tray into a meditative landscape. This isn't just decor, it's a mood. It's a way to bring the stillness of the desert into your daily rhythm. You water sparingly. You watch the shapes grow slowly. You feel a sense of control and ease, because everything in this tray was chosen with intention. What makes this garden special is that it asks very little from you, and yet it gives so much. Peace, focus, a place to rest your eyes and your mind. For those who feel overwhelmed by plant parent pressure, the Desert Zen tray is your perfect beginning. And if you've been thinking about growing something you can also eat, something practical and beautiful, then you're going to love what's coming next, the miniature edible garden. Let's grow something tasty together. 6. Miniature edible garden. Let's bring your garden from beautiful to delicious. Because the next idea isn't just easy on the eyes, it's something you can eat. Welcome to the miniature edible garden, a container garden that brings fresh, homegrown food right to your fingertips, even if you only have a square meter of space. This one is especially perfect for you if you've ever stood in the grocery store, stared at plastic-wrapped herbs or wilted greens, and thought, I could grow this myself. And you're absolutely right, you can. In fact, you can grow a surprising amount of food in just a few pots. Picture this: a cluster of containers by your sunny balcony door, or outside your kitchen window. In one pot, baby lettuce leaves burst with color. In another, cherry tomatoes climb upward, ripening like little jewels. Around the edges, parsley and basil spill over, not just for garnish, but for flavor that changes your meals. You don't need a big setup. Dwarf and compact varieties are your best friends. Look for bush beans, patio tomatoes, or container-friendly peppers. You can even tuck in a few strawberries. Their tiny white flowers and red fruits are both edible and adorable. And here's the beautiful thing. This garden feeds you in more ways than one. Yes, it offers fresh produce, but it also nourishes a deeper part of you, the part that craves self-reliance, rhythm, and connection to the things you eat. There's something deeply fulfilling about harvesting a handful of greens you grew yourself. It slows you down. It grounds you. This is not about perfection or producing a feast. It's about tasting the joy of your own effort. About snipping a few leaves for a sandwich and realizing, this came from me, and it's accessible, even for beginners, even with very little space. So, if you're ready to grow something small that makes a big impact, the miniature edible garden is your next step. Coming up next, we shift the mood entirely. From food to feelings, we'll explore a space that's made for cool shadows and quiet moments, the shade-loving retreat. 7. Shade-loving retreat. Now let's move into the calm, cool corners of your home or garden, the ones that don't get much sunlight but still whisper, I want to grow something too. That's where the shade-loving retreat comes to life, a soft, soothing escape built entirely for low-light lovers. This idea is for those of you who feel limited by where the sun falls. Maybe your apartment faces north, or your patio only gets slivers of morning light. It can feel frustrating, right? But the truth is, shade is not a weakness in gardening, it's an opportunity. An invitation to create something more subtle, more serene. Start with a palette of greens and silvers. Plants like ferns, hostas, calathea, and begonias don't just tolerate shade, they thrive in it. Their leaves are often more decorative than flowers. Patterns that look hand-painted. Textures that ripple like silk. And when they move ever so slightly in the breeze, they create a hush, a softness. Use containers in cooler tones, grays, blues, or deep greens, to enhance the peaceful atmosphere. Choose glazed ceramic pots or matte finish planters that blend into the shadows. Letting the leaves shine, place them near your front porch, under a tree, or in a corner of your balcony where the light is gentle but consistent. To make it truly feel like a retreat, add a low bench or a single chair. This isn't just a garden, it's a resting place. A spot to read, to breathe, to sip something warm. It becomes your hideaway, not loud with color, but full of quiet beauty. So, if you've ever felt like your shady space is a challenge, think again. With the right plants and just a little love, it becomes one of the most tranquil parts of your home. Next, we'll dial up the charm and romance, overflowing blooms, soft colors, and vintage vibes await in the fairy tale cottage baskets. Let's make magic with flowers. 8. Fairy tale cottage baskets. Now imagine this. You step outside, and you're instantly transported to a countryside cottage where blooms spill over every ledge and butterflies dance in the air. That's the charm we're capturing with the fairy tale cottage baskets, a container garden idea soaked in softness, whimsy, and nostalgic beauty. This one is for the romantics. For those of you who feel most at peace surrounded by flowers. Maybe you've always dreamed of an English garden, but your reality is an apartment balcony or a front stoop. The good news? You don't need rolling hills. All you need is a few hanging baskets, a little pastel magic, and a heart open to color. Start with a selection of trailing and mounding blooms, petunias in pale pinks, geraniums in gentle corals, maybe some white alyssum for fragrance and fluff. The key here is overflow. You want your baskets to feel abundant, like they've been blooming for ages and couldn't be contained if they tried. Choose containers that feel rustic and charming. Woven baskets, distressed wooden boxes, or even painted tin pails, anything that looks like it's lived a few stories. And don't be afraid to add a little theatrical touch, maybe a ribbon tied to a handle, a tiny birdhouse nearby, or a vintage watering can tucked beside your display. What makes this idea truly magical isn't just the look, it's the feeling. It's how these flowers soften the edges of your day, how they turn an ordinary doorway into an entrance to something enchanted. It's that moment when you catch the scent of a bloom as you pass in. Just for a second, everything slows down. This isn't just a style, it's a story you're telling with petals and pots. A quiet declaration that beauty matters. That joy can live in small spaces. That every day deserves a little wonder. And if wonder is what you're craving, wait until you see what's next. We're heading somewhere bold and exotic with our next idea, the tropical escape. Let's turn up the color and feel the heat. 9. Tropical escape. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine a breeze carrying the scent of hibiscus. The rustle of broad leaves swaying gently, and the feeling of sunlight warming your skin. That's the essence of the tropical escape, a bold, vibrant container garden that brings the energy of a faraway paradise right to your doorstep. This idea is for the dreamers. For those of you who long for vacation vibes even in your everyday routine. Maybe you're working from home, surrounded by screens and deadlines, and you just want to step outside and feel something different, something alive, something wild. The tropical escape is all about lush foliage and explosive color. Start with statement plants, ones that stop you in your tracks. Think elephant ears with their massive, heart-shaped leaves. Add caladiums that look hand-painted with strokes of red, white, and green. Then, for bursts of color, bring in flowering tropicals like hibiscus, canna lilies, or lantana. These plants don't whisper, they sing. And you don't need a garden in the Caribbean to make this happen. Just a few large pots, ceramic, concrete, or even brightly painted plastic, can do the trick. Place them where they'll soak up sun and cluster them close to create a dense, jungle-like feel. The goal is to build layers, height, color, texture. Make every pot feel like it belongs to its own little ecosystem. Don't forget the atmosphere. Add a bamboo screen, a woven outdoor rug, or even a string of lights to give your tropical corner that resort energy. A chair with a pillow, a tall drink in hand, and just like that, you've escaped, without ever leaving home. This garden doesn't just change your space, it shifts your mood. It wakes something up inside. It reminds you to enjoy, to breathe deeper, to be bold in how you live and grow. And speaking of bold, our next stop takes a completely different turn. It's sleek, it's structured, It's a lesson in less is more. The modern minimalist is coming next. Let's embrace simplicity, style, and the beauty of clean lines. 10. Modern minimalist. After the wild beauty of the tropics, it's time to pause, to take a breath and step into a space where less says more. Welcome to the modern minimalist, a container garden design that whispers elegance through clean lines, subtle colors, and purposeful simplicity. This idea is perfect for those of you who love a calm, uncluttered space. Maybe you live in a modern apartment, or your style leans toward the refined, where every object is chosen with care. You might not be drawn to bursts of color or sprawling arrangements. But that doesn't mean your space has to be lifeless. Quite the opposite. In a modern minimalist garden, every detail matters. Start with the containers. Choose sleek, geometric shapes in matte finishes. Shades like charcoal gray, deep black, or soft white create a neutral canvas, one that lets your plants do all the talking. Tall rectangular planters, low round bowls, or even square concrete pots add structure and harmony to your setup. Now, the plants. Think architectural. Choose species with bold forms and clear silhouettes. Snake plants with their upright lines. ZZ plants with their waxy, symmetrical leaves. Even a simple pothos trailing gently from a high shelf adds motion without chaos. This garden doesn't overwhelm the senses, it balances them. And its maintenance matches its aesthetic, low effort, yet consistently polished. The kind of garden you can walk past each day and feel a quiet sense of pride, of control, of calm. Lighting plays a role here too. Consider placing your minimalist containers where soft morning light hits, or add a modern floor lamp nearby if it's indoors. You're not just growing plants, you're curating a mood, one of spaciousness, stillness, and intentional living. If the wild jungle feeds your spirit, this garden soothes it. It's the pause between notes, the silence that gives music its meaning. But let's shift gears once more, because our next idea brings gardening to the windows themselves. Up next, the window box extravaganza. Overflowing charm is just one windowsill away. 11. Window box extravaganza. Now let's turn our attention to something often overlooked, yet full of untapped potential: your windows. Whether you're in a high-rise apartment, a cozy townhouse, or a cottage in the suburbs, the window box extravaganza can instantly transform the outside and inside of your living space. This idea is for those of you who want beauty both inside and out. Maybe you don't have a garden or even a balcony, but you do have a window. That's all you need, because a well-planted window box doesn't just decorate your exterior, it becomes a daily gift. A frame of flowers, a changing view. Start by choosing a box that complements the look of your home: wood for rustic charm, metal for a more modern feel, or brightly painted plastic for playful flair. Make sure it's deep enough for root growth and has proper drainage holes. Your plants will thank you later. Now, the fun begins. When you design a window box, think in layers. Start with upright plants like geraniums, marigolds, or salvias to give your box structure. Then fill in the middle with mounding plants like begonias or impatiens. Finally, add spillers, those cascading beauties like lobelia, ivy, or sweet potato vine that tumble gracefully over the edges. And don't forget the view from the inside. The beauty of window boxes is that they become part of your interior too. Imagine sitting by your window, morning coffee in hand, sunlight filtering through blooms that sway just outside the glass. It's more than decoration, it's a moment of joy. Repeated every day. If you really want to elevate the effect, coordinate your box flowers with the colors of your interior curtains, cushions, or artwork. It creates a visual connection that's subtle but deeply satisfying. The window box extravaganza is proof that even the thinnest ledge can carry beauty. That you don't need land, you just need light, love, and a little imagination. And if you're the kind of gardener who likes to break the rules and create something truly one of a kind, then our next idea is calling your name. Coming up, the repurposed garden, where every object can bloom with purpose. 12. Repurposed garden. And now, we arrive at the most playful and imaginative idea of them all: the repurposed garden. This one's for the innovators, the storytellers, the artists at heart who see potential where others see junk. Because in this garden, nothing is wasted, and everything has a second chance to bloom. If you've ever held onto an old rain boot, a dented teapot, or a cracked drawer thinking, I could do something with this, you were right. This idea invites you to look beyond the garden store and instead look around your own home. The repurposed garden isn't just practical, it's personal. Each container carries its own memory, its own little past life. A bicycle basket becomes a bed of violets. A broken birdcage becomes a hanging planter for trailing ivy. Even a vintage typewriter, with its keys rusted and silent, can cradle a succulent or two, transforming what once was forgotten into something quietly alive. There's freedom here, no rules, just creativity and character, and that's what makes it perfect for those of you who crave uniqueness in your green space. You don't want to copy a Pinterest board, you want something no one else has. Something that reflects who you are. Of course, function matters too. Always make sure your chosen object has, or can be modified to include, drainage. Add liners or sealants where needed, and then let your imagination run wild. This style of gardening not only reduces waste, it sparks joy. It teaches us to see value in the imperfect. It reminds us that growth doesn't need a brand new container. Sometimes, the most beautiful things bloom in the most unexpected places. So whether it's an old shoe, a rusty bucket, or a suitcase from your grandparents' attic, give it soil, give it light, and see what grows. Now that we've explored 12 incredible ways to garden in even the smallest of spaces, it's time to bring it all together. Up next, we'll look at the essential care tips and creative touches that can elevate any container garden, no matter which style speaks to you most. Let's gather what we've learned and dig into the finishing flourishes. Tips and tricks. Container gardening essentials. Now that we've traveled through 12 beautiful garden ideas, from jungle sanctuaries to storybook baskets and sun-drenched herb bars, let's pause and ground ourselves with a few essentials. Because no matter which design you choose, there are timeless truths that make every container garden thrive. Welcome to the heart of it all. Tips and tricks for container gardening success. First, let's talk about containers, because believe it or not, the pot matters just as much as the plant. You'll want something that suits your climate and your space. Terracotta is breathable but dries out quickly in heat. Plastic holds moisture better, but make sure it's UV resistant if it's going outside. And for something stylish and sturdy, try glazed ceramic or fiberstone. They're beautiful and built to last. Next comes the most overlooked but critical component, drainage. Without it, your plant's roots can suffocate in waterlogged soil. Always check that your containers have holes at the bottom. And if you're upcycling something unconventional, drill those holes yourself or line it properly. A healthy plant begins with happy roots. Now, onto soil. Not all dirt is created equal. Don't just dig from your yard. Use a high-quality potting mix that's light, drains well, and holds moisture evenly. For edible plants or flowers, consider adding compost or a slow-release organic fertilizer to give them that gentle, ongoing boost. Watering is its own art. A rule of thumb? Stick your finger into the soil if the top inch is dry. It's time to water, but don't fall into the trap of overwatering, especially in shaded setups. For those of you who travel often or forget easily, self-watering pots or drip irrigation systems can be lifesavers. Light, of course, is everything. Know your plant. Some love full sun and need 6 hours a day. Others thrive in dappled shade. Observe how light shifts through your home, and place your plants accordingly. And for indoor gardens, grow lights can make all the difference during darker months. Lastly, don't forget to check in. Plants speak quietly. Curling leaves, yellowing edges, stunted growth. These are messages. Slow down. Observe. Respond. You're not just a gardener now, you're a caretaker. So as you create your plant-filled corners, remember, it's not about doing everything perfectly. It's about learning, connecting, watching something grow not just because of your effort, but with it. And now, with everything you need planted in both your mind and your hands, let's bring it all together in a heartfelt conclusion. One last moment to reflect, and to invite something new to grow. Stay with me. The final chapter is just ahead. So here we are, at the end of this journey, but perhaps at the very beginning of yours. We've wandered through jungles that live indoors, tasted herbs fresh from the balcony, and watched color spill from baskets, windows, and even repurposed teapots. And maybe, Somewhere along the way, you realized something. Gardening isn't about space. It's about presence. You don't need a yard. You don't even need a balcony. What you need is intention. A little light, a vessel to hold your hopes, and the courage to begin. Because that's what each container garden really is, a small act of hope. It's you saying, even in this limited space, I choose life. It's a decision to nurture, to notice, to be in relationship with something green and growing. Whether you start with one pot of mint on a sunny windowsill or transform your patio into a blooming retreat, every step you take brings more beauty, more calm, and more joy into your daily life. And trust me, once you begin, you'll start seeing your home differently. Every ledge, every nook, every patch of light becomes a possibility. So if this video has sparked something in you, even just a tiny seed of inspiration, let it grow. Subscribe to Earthly Delights so we can continue exploring, creating, and tending these little sanctuaries together. And I'd love to see what you create. Share your favorite container garden idea in the comments. Or tag us in your photos, whether it's a blooming window box, a funky repurposed planter, or a lush corner that's all your own. This isn't just gardening, it's healing, it's art, it's delight. Until next time, stay rooted, stay curious, and remember, there's always room to grow.